to ANC 34G's regularly scheduled September meeting. This is the second meeting for this month, the second and fourth Monday of each month. My name is Beck, the chair of the commission, for those of you who don't know me. And I represent the single member district that's ANC 34G03, which is the area between Nebraska and Utah and Broad Branch, essentially. We're glad to have everyone here tonight. Before we begin, let me just lay out a few basics about ANC. For those of you who aren't familiar with the ANC, each of us is an elected representative, volunteer, paid, and we represent each of us about 2,000 people in a single member district. So aggregately, the whole commission has an area of about 15,000 people. Includes Chevy, Marquis, Woods, and Hopper. And as I said before, we meet every month, twice a month, most months, unless there's a holiday, except for August when we don't meet at all. Our meetings are open to the public. Any business that we conduct has to be conducted in public, and the votes that we take have to be public votes. We invite participation from the community. And we also videotape our meetings so that they're available on YouTube for anyone who's not able to attend the meeting in person. And because of that, because they're being videotaped, one of the things that we ask is that everyone who's going to be speaking, whether you're presenting something or whether you're going to ask a question or whatever, that you come up to the podium so that you can be heard on the video and seen by our thousands and thousands of viewers, and that everyone will be able to understand what you're saying here too as well. We also are very attentive to having everyone speak and be heard on any of the topics that come up. We've got this new whiteboard here that is designed to let everyone who wants to speak on a particular topic that's on the agenda to put their name up and the topic, and we'll make sure that you get an opportunity to speak. We want to do that in an orderly way. Only one person should be talking at a time so that we can always hear anyone who's talking. And we also want to be very respectful of all the other opinions. Sometimes the issues do get a little heated, and people feel strongly about them, and that's understandable. We want to make sure that everyone continues to treat each other with respect. So one other thing, I want to introduce our assistants during the meeting. Stephanie Van Pelt is our office manager, and she will be helping us during the meeting. Alan Beach is a retired commissioner who has been around this neighborhood his entire life. Is invaluable and a real resource for our commission. So with that said, let me ask each of the commissioners to introduce themselves. Becky, you want to begin?
Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca Madak. I'm Commissioner for 3404, which includes Lafayette School and Lafayette Park. I basically border Utah, Morrison, Broad Branch, Tennessee.
Good evening everyone, my name is Abraham Flaman and I represent ANC 34G01, which is Hawthorne and part of Barnaby Woods. I'm also the ANC secretary, so you'll probably see me taking notes during the meeting. That's for our meeting minutes. We had a great meeting. Looking forward to talking to you all.
I'm Chris Frombolini, ANC 3G07, which is our southernmost district, by military, Reno, Nebraska, and Nevada.
Hello everybody, I'm Jeremy Mallett. I represent 3G05, which includes this community center, and the areas basically from Chevy Circle down Connecticut to about military and across the Broad Branch.
Okay, so we have 5 commissioners here tonight, which means we can conduct business. We have to have a quorum in order to be able to conduct business. We have 2 commissioners who are missing tonight, and we can still proceed ahead. The first item on our agenda is to adopt the agenda. It was published on our website and on various listservs modifications or changes to be made? All those in favor of adopting the agenda? 5-0. Okay, I have a couple of announcements, which will be brief. The first is there's going to be a first, I think, for the district. I'm not sure whether this has happened before, at least on this scale. On Saturday, October 5th, there's going to be open streets on Georgia Avenue. And it's going to be 3 miles on Georgia Avenue from Missouri Avenue south to Berry Place. And that encompasses a wide range of businesses and other places that are on Georgia Avenue. And they will be closed to traffic completely, and they'll be devoted to walking, biking, enjoying fitness classes, demonstrations, bike clinics, children's activities, and many more things. And Georgia Avenue is really sort of the main street of Ward 4, and some of us who live over on this side of the park don't get over there as often as we should. But this is an opportunity to really get to know Georgia Avenue a little bit better. So everyone's encouraged to participate in that. The other announcement I have is with regard to the Washington Gas project on 30th Street. This was the subject of an ANC meeting that we held in June, and also included repaving of 30th Street and a number of other streets in that neighborhood. During the week of September 30th, next week, Washington Gas hopes to complete a major pressure test on the main gas transmission line under 30th Street. This has been in the works for about 8 months. They've been working on this to replace that line that was built in 1937, I think, originally. The work has been extremely disruptive for the residents, and there's been a major staging area that's right next to Little Forest Park that's been particularly dirty and junky, and residents have not liked it at all. And so we had a meeting this morning, actually, with Councilman Todd and with the Washington Gas people and their contractor to talk about what can be done about that. Even though we're hopeful that if things go well, most of the work will be completed by the end of next week. And nevertheless, there were a lot of concerns by the residents that they wanted to move that staging area and to consolidate it in another place, and to also clean up the street more. So we got some commitments from Washington Gas that they would do that, but we're really trying to make sure that they are not interrupted in their work this week, so that they can get ready for this pressure test beginning on the 30th, and then hopefully be finished with this project before long. Okay, other commissioner announcements? Becky? Abe? Chris?
One announcement. Just wanted to say that the building we're complaining about at 5303 Connecticut Avenue, which was 50% demolished and then sat there as a neighborhood eyesore for 2 years, has finally been demolished by the developer. However, he did it in such a way, he did it with a bulldozer as opposed to using people to do it, and he's scattered dust throughout the neighborhood. Had to close the daycare center, which was 2 doors down, and it turned out the dust contained lead paint. So the job has been shut down, and we're hoping that the DC government finds a way to get this mess cleaned up. I mean, the developer's supposed to clean up all the dust on the site, and still nothing has happened. So we get a nice breeze, there's more lead paint blowing around the neighborhood. So I see this as a big problem, and I can't understand why the DC government hasn't done something about it yet. I've written to him, written to him a number of times, so we'll see what happens.
One thing, 2 years ago in June, Mayor Bowser came to the intersection of Connecticut and Livingston to talk about the rat situation in this neighborhood. And we have 2 garbage cans right on the corners there, one on each side of Livingston, on this side of Connecticut Avenue. And I've been watching them over time, and they're getting worse and worse. And today I sent pictures that I took to several people, 2 of whom are here tonight, D. Smith, Mary Chay's Deputy Chief of Staff, and Jess Wertheim, who's the mayor's community representative for Ward 3. And they haven't been picked up in now over 80 hours. And the garbage is now on the streets, overflowed the cans. And we've been working real hard with the restaurants to make sure that they're taking care of their garbage to try to abate the rat situation. And this is a city issue. So there are a couple of things that Dee got back to me and said that she was in touch with Director Gildart, and she'll be following up on that. And Jess Wertheim is having a meeting tomorrow morning with the route inspector for this area. And she also said that they guaranteed her that it will be picked up tonight. We'll see on my way home as I walk home. But this isn't just a one-off. This is a situation that's been going on. And they're supposed to have sensors in them, so there's one of three things. There are no sensors in them to alert people when there's garbage in there. Two, the sensors are being ignored, or three, the sensors aren't working. So we're going to try to figure out which of those three situations they are. And the other thing that we were promised at the time were rat-proof trash cans for the street. Nothing's changed in terms of the cans since then, so that's another issue that we're going to be looking at.
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
I know that Commissioner Brackfield's been working on that extensively over the last couple of weeks with the city and the
I
residents.
think Dan's been working more with the residents and with businesses, not so much with the city. And
I know the
they're
city
picking up
was
the
out there
trash.
at restaurants.
Yeah, but they're not, this is a, I think Jerry, it's a different issue. It's the picking up the trash by the district, which is a different branch of the district. They have been coming out and looking at abating the rat problem, but haven't been focusing on the trash that the district is supposed to pick up.
Right. Yeah, like I said, the issue with the restaurants is being handled for the most part. Commissioner Bradfield is doing that. This is the city issue with the on-the-street trash.
Okay, community announcements now. Jessica, you want to begin? First of all, we should congratulate Jessica on her marriage. Are you still with her?
I'll just say yes.
Okay.
I'm not gonna use. Hi everybody, I'm Jessica Wertheim. I'm the Mayor's Ward 3 liaison. And as Commissioner Mallett said, I received his email today regarding the concerns around the trash cans, and I'll be meeting with the DPW inspector for this area tomorrow morning to discuss how to address this issue going forward. Commissioner Speck already gave the announcement about open streets this coming weekend. Other than that, just wanted to make sure to introduce myself for those who don't know me, and to let you all know that if you have any community questions or concerns, please feel free to come and speak with me. I'd be glad to assist you.
And Lee Smith is joining us now from Councilman Chevy's office.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dee Smith, Deputy Chief of Staff for Councilmember Che. Some of you may remember me. I've been councilmember for a while. I'm sure I will officially meet Jessica in person, and we will work on a lot of issues together. The one thing that I want to add about the litter cans, because we had some other residents who've been going back and forth directly with the council member and Director Gellhart at DPW, I also just highlighted for him that, hey, there seems to be ongoing issues with the litter cans not being dumped, not being cleaned out and dumped as they should be by the city. And on my way up, there was another litter can that had the military in the same situation, so he has a real-time photo of what's happening. And so I hope between Jessica's visit with the route supervisor and just the DPW director, I understand that something is amiss and not working properly, that they'll be able to figure out what's going on and get those city litter cans cleaned and cleared out, which he has
Any other community announcements? Anybody? I saw you. Had your name up there.
For those of you who are the first user of that way.
I figured it was because I hadn't been here in a while.
As many of you probably know, the city is in the midst of an amendment cycle for the comprehensive plan, which is meant to guide change in the District of Columbia. The initial foundational chapter, known as the framework element, has gotten most of the attention thus far. But beyond the framework, there are chapters that deal with city functions like housing, infrastructure, economic development, and so on, and chapters that look at the city geographically. The city is divided into 10 planning areas or area elements, and the public and government have submitted amendments both to the text and the maps that are meant to guide development in the area elements. These include proposals for changing the zoning of certain pieces of land. In mid to late October, the Office of Planning's amended version of the comprehensive plan beyond the framework element, including the area elements, will be released, and the public will have 60 days to respond to it. Therefore, the DC Grassroots Planning Coalition, which has been actively involved in helping people understand what is proposed for their communities, is holding what we're calling study circles in each of the planning areas. Chevy Chase, Barnaby Woods, Hawthorne, and a great swath of upper northwest fall into the planning area known as Rock Creek West. The study circle for Rock Creek West will be held on October 5th between 1:30 and 3:30 at Cleveland Park Congregational Church, 3400 Lowell Street, Northwest. I encourage residents to attend to share knowledge and find out what's going on. I have flyers here. I have some at the back table, and I can pass them out if people want to grab them. Thank you very much.
I have one, please. But I have one. I'm certainly interested in this. But as you probably know, our commission submitted testimony before the council on the framework element, and we had a number of concerns about the framework element. And as you pointed out, the individual area plans are equally or perhaps more important in a lot of respects. And so we do expect to look carefully at that. There was a workshop that the Office of Planning held last Saturday and last Thursday. Unfortunately, none of us was able to attend either of those sessions. But the materials that were distributed there are available, and we can get to look at those carefully. But this is an important issue for the district because it sets out the plan for how we're going to develop over the next 20 years. And so it's a pretty important step that the district takes. So, Andrea, thank you for bringing this up. We will certainly pay attention to it, and I suspect at some point the commission is going to want to take positions on some of these issues. Okay, any other community announcements? Okay, the next is third time's the charm, I hope. We're going to be able to give a tribute to Davis Kennedy, and I'm going to turn this over to Jessica to introduce that. Davis, you want to come up too?
Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, you can. We want to be on the video. Everybody here hear this.
Perfect. All right, so, Mr. Kennedy, I just wanted to present this thank you letter to you from the mayor, just thanking you for your service and reporting on the news and being a longtime publisher of the current newspapers. We really appreciate your service, and you've been a really wonderful asset to this community. So, on behalf of the mayor, thank you very much.
David, certainly.
Absolutely,
You should certainly speak.
Yes, please.
I found it fascinating how high leadership levels of ultra local news, people covering an ANC. I used to run the gazettes in Montgomery County, and when there was a local government, our readership was well over 90%. So in Chevy Chase, the town, the village was well over 90%. Bethesda, where there was no local government, was 70%. And here, in the district, there is local government, thanks to you. So our readership was well over 90%. We distributed the paper free of charge. Advertising usually paid the bills. And I thought that since I was approaching 80, or at that time I was approaching 80, I should probably bow out. I found something else to try. It's not as successful as I was hoping. Have any questions for me?
Well, we just want to thank you very much as well. David's been a fixture in our ANC meetings for many, many years. And we appreciate the coverage, particularly that you gave for ANCs. And there were a number of times in editorials that were supporting positions that the ANC had taken. And so we're grateful for that. And I know it expanded our ability to communicate with the community very significantly. We appreciate it.
But one of the most difficult things about many newspapers is they often emphasize on the side. I'm not a great admirer of our current president, but if you look at the New York Times and the Washington Post, they're attacking the president on some issue, and his answer is the runner of the page. So our attitude was always have the answer in about the third paragraph, so that it's start the answer, then you can go into more detail on the original part of the story and the answer on the runner of the page. Anyway, that was me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, is Ed Bennett here? This is the next item on our agenda, and I was afraid he might not be here. So we're going to, at least for the moment, we'll table this agenda item, which is a possible resolution relating to parking signage and markings on the west side of the 5300 block of Connecticut. And we'll take that up either later in our meeting if Mr. Bennett comes, or we'll postpone it for another time. The next item on the agenda is the discussion of possible vote on an application for special exception at 3917 Military Road. Is Winston Sale here? These were two items that were on Commissioner Bradfield, in Commissioner Bradfield's single district, and we'll hold that one as well until later in the meeting if Mr. Sale comes, or at a later meeting. Okay, we'll get to the next item, which I know there are a number of people here to hear. And that's a discussion and possible vote on proposed testimony before the Council's Committee on Finance and Revenue. Actually, it's no longer the Finance and Revenue Committee. That's been changed. On the Veterans Retirement Income Tax Exclusion Amendment Act of 2019. Just by way of introduction, this bill was introduced last February by Council members Brandon Todd, Mary Chevy, David Grasso, and Robert White. And it would exempt any veteran's retirement income from income taxes in the district effective December 31st, 2018. And in 41 states, veterans pay no income tax on their pensions, so the district would be joining most of the rest of the country in this position. And this is a particularly important issue for our ANC. We have a large number of seniors in our ANC and a large number of veterans who are seniors, and therefore receiving pensions frequently. Most affected, of course, is the Norwood Military Retirement Community. But I've also spoken to people in Ingleside, and there are a number of veterans who live in Ingleside as well. And so and then scattered throughout our community, there are a number of veterans living in their own homes. So this is obviously an issue that will affect a great many of our constituents. And so we wanted to weigh in on this. And Paul Bricker is here from Norwood to speak to us about this and how important it is for the veterans who are residents at Norwood.
Thank you, Randy, and for the commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to appear in front of you this evening. I'm a retired Army officer. I'm also the Chief Operating Officer of Norwood. There's a number of retired members of the uniformed services that are here in the district, and I want to help you understand why should we support this, because we're mindful this money, that DC income tax, is going to have to come from somewhere. We're aware of that. But we view the about $5 million that the Office of Tax Revenue calculates this will cost the district is really a down payment to make the district the most attractive destination for literally thousands of retired folks from uniformed services every year that traditionally retire in Maryland and Virginia. And a great illustration of this is when you get a community that has veterans who begin to retire in that community, there's a number of benefits that brings. The first is the military is extremely diverse. It's one of the most diverse institutions in our nation today. For example, in DC, 61% of the veterans are minorities. Retired veterans and spouses who come to the district or retire the district, their children tend to be older, and so they're not such a burden on local public schools. They tend to buy property and pay property tax. They tend to get other jobs and pay wages, W-2 income tax on those wages. And for example, Amazon really is attracted to retired military folks. So instead of those folks living in Virginia and commuting north, why don't, if the district were to become the attractive destination for retirees, they could commute against traffic and bring that W-2 income back to the district. It also helps with the fight against gentrification of DC communities, because most retired folks from the uniformed services are very middle-class folks. So it would help because they would come into these communities, they tend to volunteer, they tend to be good citizens, they tend to buy homes, pay property tax, and they also become advocates for service in our nation's military. DC has one of the lowest per capita rates of folks who serve in the military of anywhere else in the nation. So there's so many opportunities in our military today that these young, in many cases, they could provide a step up for many of the young people in our communities today that don't have a lot of opportunities. And today's new GI Bill, after 4 to 6 years of service, will completely cover their cost of their education in a public school. So it becomes a huge opportunity, and when you have retired folks in these communities, they tend to be role models, and they tend to perhaps be a good example for young men and women that don't normally have these examples, especially in the district where there's just not a lot of folks who serve. So we would ask for the council to support this bill, and I'm more than willing to answer any of your questions.
I have 2 questions. Maryland, Virginia offer this already?
They do not. So Virginia taxes all the retirement, and Maryland exempts a small percentage of military retired pay. Indiana on 9/11 became the most recent state to exempt all retired pay from state income tax.
And my next question is, when a military personnel is retired on disability, is their income already taxed?
So a portion of, depending on their disability, a portion of that is not taxed, but it depends on their level of disability.
Paul, I believe the Committee on Business and Economic Development is now going to consider this. Do you have any idea when this might come up for hearing before the committee?
We met with his staff on Friday. They have not promised us a hearing, but we're asking them for a hearing. There are already 8 members of the City Council that support this bill. So we believe this would be a wonderful opportunity for the mayor and the City Council on Veterans Day to sign this into law. You talk about a coup for Virginia and Maryland, the governors of both those states, I think their heads would spin around because of literally thousands of people who retire in this area. They retire in Virginia and Maryland because of DC's income tax. So I think this would be a win-win not only for veterans but also for the city.
Okay, I'm just trying to think of how we can best support this. Let's first of all get some discussion from the commissioners. Jerry, go ahead.
Thanks for coming and bringing this to our attention, Paul. I have a couple of questions. So I just want to be sure. So DC, so there are 40 states. I say other because I consider DC's number 51. But there are 40 other states that have full, no tax for retired veterans.
So not full. There's, I think, 23 that don't tax it at all. And there are some states like Florida and Texas that just don't have state income tax.
Right.
But like Michigan, Florida, a lot of the states in the South don't tax military retirement at all, and Indiana was the most recent. But some states provide, like Maryland does a portion, I think about $4,000.
So like DC does that for federal retirements. They have a small portion. I think it's $3,000.
Yes, sir, I don't know, it might be.
Yes, sir, right?
So these,
That's what I usually do. So some states are more like that, where they have about 18 that are partial and 23 that are.
yes, sir. And I can get you the exact by state rollout.
Okay. I was just curious about that. So when this comes up, I'm sure you get asked questions about housing, for example. And you say that a lot of people would move here. It's not very cheap to move into...
Not in the Northwest, you're exactly right.
Right, so...
Unless you move into Knollwood, I can make a deal for you.
Okay. So when people talk about veterans moving here from DC, from Maryland and Virginia, what usually comes up in terms of housing costs for those veterans? What questions do you usually get about that?
It's very expensive to live in the district. But if you live in the district, you have access to world-class public transportation, okay? And you've got the community here. This is a very bike-friendly area, and you've got a lot of conveniences. Washington, I think, for quality of life is in the top 5 cities in the nation right now.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I'm just wondering the kinds of questions that you get. And
housing's a big one, and DC income tax. When I have folks who come here, so we recently opened the admission criteria at Knollwood for folks who've served as an officer, period. We used to be, you had to be a retired officer. Now you use any service as an officer, and we also opened up admission to GS-14s and above in many of the federal cabinet level agencies in the national security area. Why did we do that? Because when I was serving in Afghanistan, I was serving with folks from the Agriculture Department, the Justice Department, as they were trying to help with law enforcement and development and downrange. So we just, when they come to us though, they say, well, you know, if I come here, I got to pay income tax on my retirement. So it becomes a concern. But again, you know, I live in Virginia. I work here. These are my residents. They are all DC residents, okay? 3 of them live with me, live here at the residence of Knollwood. And then Paul Harris, he's a retired officer. He lives here in the district as well. So it becomes a trade-off. You know, I don't have to, when you live in the communities that provide so much, which Washington, D.C. does, I don't have to commute to enjoy it. I can live right here, and so there's some benefits of living here as well. But the tax thing, the tax burden is something significant, and when you talk to veterans about this, they take that into consideration as they choose where they're going to retire.
Okay, and my last question, I watched most of the hearing, I didn't read the entire transcript. Did anybody ever bring up, that was in opposition to DC becoming a state, that DC doesn't even give veterans a break on income tax?
So, you know, when we talk to the members of City Council and we ask them, do you support veterans, they can't get in line fast enough. We're going to give them an opportunity to really do this. We think the City Council will, but they're going to have to figure out where the money's going to come from. So we'd love for the mayor to support this and sign this into law on Veterans Day. So we appreciate your support on this. We know this is a big deal, but we don't think it's unreachable. And again, when you've got employers like Amazon who want to hire retired military folks, bring them to the district and let them commute against traffic and then bring that revenue back to DC. What a great opportunity for jobs for DC residents.
Or let them take Metro.
That's right, they can get on the Metro and ride empty cars back into Northern Virginia.
They save on transportation, but it would offset it.
Yeah. So, but again, thank you for the opportunity to appear in front of you, and thanks for your service to our ANC.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'm just thinking about how we can best support. We may be just pushing an open door here with the council. Hopefully they're going to see the logic of your arguments. But if there's any opportunity for us to weigh in on that, we certainly would like to do that. If they're going to have a hearing or something like that,
Keep you posted.
or if it's going to come up for a vote, if we keep us posted. Because I think, am I accurately reflecting the commission's, the consensus of the commission that we can support this bill? Okay. Okay.
So could you pass a resolution supporting this bill?
I will move that we prepare a resolution supporting the bill, and that we take other steps to support it through testimony if there are going to be hearings, so that we can let the council know that the ANC supports this bill.
Just one friendly amendment, I guess, Joe. Would it make sense to send a letter to the committee that is responsible for this?
Or we can send it in a letter, or we can send a resolution.
Yeah.
Either way.
That makes sense.
Okay. All those, is there a second? All those in favor? That's your, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, Mr. Sale is here. Mr. and Mrs. Sale. Yes. Okay, we skipped over you, but we're going to come back right now.
Thank you.
This is an item for a special exception. Richard Redfield is not here tonight, so I'm sitting in for him just to explain what's going on. As I understand it, you're planning an addition onto the house, a second-story addition, which is just a bump up from what exists now. But the existing house currently would violate the setback requirements or zoning setback requirements. And what you're asking for is a special exception so that you can put the addition onto the house that's exactly the same spot where the current house sits. You wouldn't expand the footprint whatsoever, right?
That's correct.
Okay. You want to, Mr. Sale, you want to come up, or Mrs. Sale, sure, and explain to us what you're planning to do? I might add that this will go before the Board of Zoning Adjustments, and they ask for, and we were happy to provide the ANC's views on this as well, and those views are entitled to great weight with the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
So thank you for considering our request. My name is Robert Sale. We live at 39, and my wife, Kate Leland, is with me. We live at 3917 Military Road, which is just 2 blocks that way. Our house was built in 1911 before the side yard setback requirement. We actually just purchased the house from Kate's father, who lived there going back to the 90s, and Kate grew up in the house there. And her father built an original addition in in 1992 on the rear of the house, a one-story addition, and to match the existing western wall of the house, it encroached 1 foot into the side yard, the required 5-foot side yard setback. He received a variance at that time to build the addition, and what we seek to do is build a one-room, it's basically a master bedroom suite above the existing single-story family room addition on the back of the house, and to match the existing wall of the house and the addition below it, the first floor addition, we would be encroaching 1 foot into the side yard. So the rest of the space is by right. The only part that we're requesting a special exception for is the western wall, and that's only 1 foot, so that it matches the existing wall of the house and the addition below it. And the house will otherwise remain basically the same as it looks today.
Okay, any questions or comments from the commissioners?
How does your neighbor who's on the other side of the, will be a 4-foot side yard, is he supporting this?
Yes, so we have a letter of support from that neighbor. And they've seen the plans, I've discussed it with them, they're friendly, they have no objections. And the other side, the side yard is like 20 feet, so, and they have objections, they also have a letter of support. And that's part of the record on the ICIS, the zoning themselves.
We also received an email from Alan Sieber, who lives in the neighborhood as well. He says he discussed the proposed variance at this residence with at least half a dozen neighbors, none of whom objected to proposed work. The situation is a grandfather problem with a lower portion of the house closer than the current side yard clearance required by modern zoning regulations. The contemplated additional load should carry on the existing walls rather than being inset to allow secondary story clearance at the required limits. Thus, the only sensible and structurally safe approach is to build as requested. The ANC should not object. And Alan couldn't be here tonight, but I wanted us to read that.
I appreciate that comment.
Any other questions? Any questions or comments? Okay, I would move. Oh, Alan, I'm sorry.
This matter.
Alan.
My memory is less than perfect. Did the 1992 matter come before the ANC, to your knowledge?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
Okay.
It was a variance to get jurisdiction.
I was a commissioner at that time.
Oh.
Thank you.
I'm surprised you don't remember that.
That's what I was scratching my head for.
Well, Bob Woodward brought it, so if you know Bob, you could ask him.
Okay, I would move in that we support the application for this special exception for the BZA. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming out. Okay, the next item on the agenda, we're running a little ahead of time, is a presentation and discussion on vacant property at 2900 Military Road and the Department of Consumer and the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs notice of immediate abatement. If it's okay with the other commissioners, I'm going to defer this one as well and see if some of the other principals who are supposed to be here show up. DCRA is supposed to be record. Oh, you're from DCRA? Oh, okay. And you are
My name is Donald
Sullivan?
Sullivan. Yes, sir. I'm Donald Sullivan, program manager.
Okay. If it's okay with you, Mr. Sullivan, if we can wait just a little bit and see if the owner, who is Michael Watson, if he's going to come. I had asked him, spoke to him late this afternoon, and he said he was going to try to make it. I'm not sure he will. But if we don't hear from him, if he's not here in another 15, 20 minutes, we'll go ahead with that topic anyway. Okay? I expect, are there any other people in the audience who want to speak on this topic? I know a number of residents were concerned about it, but I don't know whether they could come tonight. Okay. Let's go to the other items on the agenda and see whether we can get those out of the way and see whether then where we are with Mr. Watson. Okay. The next item is a discussion and possible vote on commission testimony before the council's facilities and procurements roundtable on advisory neighborhood commissions, wards 3 and 4. And Mr. Clement, you are been working on this. Can you fill us in on what we should say?
Sure. So Councilmember Robert White and the Committee on Facilities and Procurement is holding 4 public oversight roundtables in the district in the coming weeks. And each roundtable will cover 2 ANCs. And so on Wednesday, October 25th, there will be a roundtable for ANCs 3 and 4. So any ANCs in Ward 3 and Ward 4. So any ANCs in either of those wards can offer testimony up to 10 minutes, and the public is also invited to offer testimony. And the purpose of these roundtables is really to gather information about what ANCs do, what obstacles ANCs encounter when doing their work, and how ANCs spend the budget that is allotted to them by the city. And so, with the help of other commissioners, I prepared some testimony that we will deliver pending our vote here on Wednesday. And so, I just want to give a brief summary of the testimony, and then I think, assuming there aren't any objections to it or after some discussion, hopefully we can vote on it, and then we can submit it, and it'll be part of the record, and anyone who wants to read it in full will be able to. It is, like one note, it is likely that whatever we submit will be longer than whatever we read because of the time. But that's okay. So in terms of accomplishments or work we've done, things that I highlighted were the report we made and the series of meetings we held and the overall work we've done to really incorporate the community's wishes into the Chevy Chase Community Center modernization. And so over the last 2 years, this commission has held really dozens of meetings, written a lengthy report, and really kind of spearheaded a community engagement effort to make sure that this community center gets what really it should get, and its community gets what it should get. The $19 million currently allotted is spent in an appropriate way. We've also worked closely with city agencies and testified at 12 different performance oversight and budget oversight meetings in preparation for this past year's budget. We've routinely heard applications for the use of public space, for special exemptions, for licenses to serve alcohol, and for permits to construct any number of homes or business improvements. We've formed an Ingleside Expansion Task Force to ensure that the minimal impact on the community occurred because of the construction at Ingleside. And we've worked with the community and city agencies on a number of, frankly, controversial issues, whether it was bioretention cells to capture stormwater, construction on Oregon Avenue, or how DCRA awards or doesn't award permits to group homes. And so I think in each of those places we've really tried to balance what the community is wanting and with what individual commissioners or the commission as a whole sees as best. And through that all, we've also done a fairly good job, I would say, of communicating with this community. We regularly communicate via the listserv. We post meetings on YouTube. We distribute detailed minutes. And we circulate a monthly newsletter. In the testimony, I talked in a little bit of detail about the Chevy Chase Community Center. I wrote about that. And then also, we talked about some obstacles and some barriers. And I think some of those have been discussed for people who have attended our meetings. But I think the biggest barrier, the biggest obstacle we've encountered really is communication with city agencies, particularly regarding construction or other projects in the community. And so I think we've often felt like we've been informed late or not informed at all. And as a corollary, a really kind of important piece of that, the community is often not informed or is informed late, whether whether it's a Washington Gas project, a DDOT road project, or other projects, it does seem like there's often a communication gap. And whether it's someone not reaching out to us or doing so in a very haphazard way, we are often the people going to city agencies and saying, what is going on with this project? Or what is going on with that project? And that's the way it's supposed to be. The budget, the testimony discusses that we really spent our budget to pay for an office manager, to award grants, and to really do work that supports our work here. Whether it's purchasing a whiteboard or a new printer, those are the main ways that we spent our money. We do also mention that there's been $100,000 appropriated in the 2020 budget to work on communication systems that will allow ANCs to reach out to the community. And we support that. We really hope that ANC's input will be included in how that money is ultimately spent. So that was a little lengthy, but that was the sort of summary of the testimony that we intend to give, that we drafted. And if commissioners have questions or additions, if residents have questions or additions, I'm happy to hear.
I just want to say I thought it was put together very well and did a great job of summarizing the work.
Sorry. And when I read it earlier, I think, do we want to say anything about them working with residents and excluding ANC?
Say more, can you say more about it?
Yeah, like with the agencies, a lot of times they forget about the ANC totally, and they go to the squeaky wheel, and then they make a deal, and then we'll clean up the mess afterwards.
Yeah, I think that's something I can say. I think there really should be, by design, the ANC is supposed to be informed about things that are occurring in the neighborhood, whether it's a project or otherwise. And I think I agree. Yeah. I agree.
If you do add that, which I think is an excellent idea, you should have at least one or two examples, since you have examples of all the other things.
And a great example is the Vacant Rec Center, where we were not involved in it at the earliest stages. We could have been very helpful.
I think that's worth that.
That's right.
I think those are both. I think Commissioner Mayor was mentioning the bioretention stuff. I think that was it. For people who were familiar with that project, there was some real controversy about where those cells would be placed. And I think our ANC kind of found out a little bit on the back end when they were going to move or where they might be. And I think that caused some real consternation in the neighborhood. And they did their job.
And they're just lying around now, not even finished.
No, they're not. You're right.
Well, undo one thing, when you talk about alcohol licenses.
Sorry.
I want to make sure it's on the video.
When you talk about alcohol license, I hope that you will say it has been a continuing policy here to get settlement agreements with as many of the restaurants, particularly regarding matters that the neighbors are very concerned about, such as trash removal, when trash is dumped and so forth, keeping down the noise from trash.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's an excellent point, because I think it's not just that we're not just rubber stamping locations, we're actually trying to take into account what neighbors and residents prefer or what's really necessary to make sure that restaurants operate in a clean and sanitary way. So some degree of uniformity of that. So thank you.
Those are very good points. Okay, with those additions and modifications, are there any other changes in the commissioners propose or suggest? With that, shall we take a vote on it? Is there a second to approve? Okay, all those in favor? 5-0. And thank you, Abe, for doing the yeoman's job and completing this. It's really helpful.
I appreciate everyone's comments.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, we'll take this one and then we'll go back to the 2900 military road issue. But this is just, and this will be very brief, it's an update on the community center design, construction, logistics. Basically, there's not much to say. Chris, you have anything?
I have something to say about this. It's, I'm getting madder and madder as nothing is happening. The community center was supposed to go out to bid, I think January 31st was the date. It looks like it's not going to happen until October 1st at the earliest, which is 8 months late. For no reason that I can understand. You can't get any information from the Department of General Services, DGS. 8 months is, I did the math, this is going to cost the community center $400,000 because there's 3% a year construction escalation, it's inflation. And if you take 3% of the cost over 8 months, it's about $400,000. So, that's money that's just going away. And there's no excuse for it. I mean, you call them up and now they're saying there's an insurance issue. They won't be specific. So, totally aggravating. And to me, a great example of an agency that's totally non-communicative and just does what they want. It's totally opaque. So, I'm just expressing my frustration, and I'm sure some of the other commissioners are also frustrated about this because we spent a lot of time putting this project together and working with the survey of the community and worked with the mayor's office to get the money. I mean, it's just frustrating.
I just want to add to Chris's frustration by saying there have been at least a half dozen, probably more times that we've been told, yes, it's going to start next week or by the end of the month, and 8 times they haven't met the deadline that they've told us. And it's as big a runaround as I can imagine on something that should be as simple as this. It's been awarded. It's listed on the DGS website as being awarded, but they're not letting them start work.
The latest information that we had from DGS, that was last week, they said the award was scheduled for Friday of last week, but no later than Monday of this week. And I tried to check today to find out what the status was and got no response. So I'm sure what the response would be is, no, we haven't done it yet. It is very, very frustrating, and as Chris mentioned, time is money, and for every delay there is, it's going to make it more difficult for us to fit the kind of community center that we think is necessary here, and the community has told us is necessary within the $19 million budget. And I don't think we'll be shy to say that at some point, and say, delays are not our fault. We shouldn't be penalized for it. The citizens of Chevy Chase should not be penalized for it. So anyway, we will continue to press DGS to get this contract executed, and then the whole process will begin to get community input on the design. We've already hopefully gotten a head start on that from all the work that the commission has done previously. There will still be a number of community meetings about the design and also about trying to minimize the disruption from the construction of the project, which is now not going to take place until at least, I think, a year from now. Okay, any other comments or questions?
The last time that happened, there was a lawsuit that came out later, remember, for the lights in the city, the rollout?
Yeah.
It took years, still, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's turn then to 29 Military Road. And Mr. Sullivan, we really appreciate your being here tonight. I don't know how much you've been involved in this, but I'm going to go through, and this is partly for the benefit of our minutes and for those who are watching on video and who are here, to just let you know what the situation is at this property and how it's evolved to this point. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the owner of the property is going to be here tonight, and we really need answers from him. But this goes back to February 7th of this year, when DCRA issued a permit for this property and described the work as interior renovation only of an existing two-story attic plus basement with no exterior work to be done, replacement of rotten studs and joists in kind, and replacing existing mechanical, electrical, and plumbing fixtures and appliances in kind. The demolition work began on the interior of the building last February, and so far as I can tell, there was no separate demolition permit to address control of dust, lead, and other contaminants at the time. Same kind of problem that we had on Connecticut Avenue. Nearby residents immediately raised concerns about the condition of the house and the dust and possible contaminants caused by the demolition work. I contacted the owner then, Michael Watson, and who assured me that the property would be cleaned up. He said the demolition completely gutted the interior of the house and removed all windows and doors on both the ground and second floors. So it's completely open to the elements of that. Over the summer, all work on the site ceased. The property became overgrown with weeds and untrimmed hedges. In June, on June 28th, the DCRA issued a notice of violation for excessive vegetative growth over the entire property and for an unsecured property with open second level windows. DCRA trimmed the hedges and notified the owner that he would be responsible for those costs. I then emailed the owner and asked him to explain why work had stopped and why the property had been left vacant and neglected. A fence with a dark screen had been erected around the property, and the dark screen, coupled with the overgrown hedges, blocked the sight line for cars turning from 29th Street on the Military Road, which is a very hazardous intersection in the best of times. Again, the owner said that he would address these violations and that he was awaiting a DCRA permit approval to continue work. Then on September 6th, I went by the site just as the crew was removing the chain link fence that had surrounded the property. The workmen indicated the fence was being removed because the owner had not paid the rental fee. At the same time, the owner arrived as well, and so I spoke to him and told him that without a fence, the property was now a hazard and needed to be remedied immediately. He told me they would get a new fence installed by the beginning of the following week. I advised DCRA of this condition and asked them to inspect the project immediately. I also asked Mr. Watson why he had not proceeded with work on the house, and again he said that the delay in getting permits, it was a delay in getting permits approved, which he attributed to the general DCRA delay. I asked Mr. Watson to send me the application information, and I would contact DCRA to see what was causing the holdup. He didn't send me any of that information. On September 10th, an inspector issued a notice of immediate abatement to the owner and boarded up the first floor windows and doors to make the house more secure. The owner would be responsible for the cost of that abatement. The second floor windows remained open to the elements, and the owner did trim the grass and hedges and reinstall the fence, but no other work has been done on the house. I was by there today and it looks exactly the same. As I said, we invited Mr. Watson and Mr. Sullivan to come to our meeting to discuss this property. And Mr. Sullivan, if you want to come up and tell us what your experience has been with this property and what DCRA can do to help us resolve concerns.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Donald Sullivan, Program Manager, Neighborhood Enforcement with DCRA. Sir, I'm familiar with the property, as a matter of fact, much of the information that you relayed to you. The bulk of the information you received in that email that Saki talked about is you have provided that for her. Now, related to the property. Let's start with the permits. I'm familiar with the permits and the two postcard permits that were issued. They were designed for this interior demolition. Those resulted from the openings that we ended up securing. Now, related to the interior demolition that property owner did, he actually is out of the scope of work for the building permits that he was assigned, which is why DCRA followed back up with a illegal construction inspection. Now, the illegal construction inspection, the case note sort of provided there were no violations because there was no work actually being done. The scope of the work that had been done was in compliance with permits that had been issued. Now, the property owner has been issued a building permit. I was in discussion with one of the managers in the trades department in terms of what we can do in terms of revoking that permit. That permit is probably going to be revoking that building permit for the simple fact there's been no activity on the project for well over 6 months. So there's no inspections and or work done on the project that has a valid building permit. The code official can move to remove. That's something we're discussing with the chief building official in the morning. Vacant property violations. Right now, the property owner is in arrears to the District of Columbia for well over $2,000. He's probably going to be going even further into a follow-up inspection that will be done on Friday. We found that there was additional trash on the property and also the upper floor windows were unsecured. My internal team, my abatement team, Mr. Jackson, who's my field operations supervisor, who you contacted and found out about the notice of the abatement. And that's not actually per se a notice of fine. That's more just notification to the property owner that the property is not in compliance with Code Section 42-3131.12, which covers vacant property maintenance. So we just let the property owner know we've done a survey. The property is a vacant property, a class 3 vacant property. It's not in compliance with the code. You have not acted on the not acting in good faith, so the city is going to make your property secure. I have a contractor that is providing us a scope of work. I'll probably have that by the end of the week because my internal team doesn't go 2 levels up. They basically stay from the ground floor for safety reasons. So we do need to bring the property completely to what we call a weather-type condition, which it is right now. So we're going to address that, and we'll probably back up this week to get the rest of that trash off the property. The property owner has been fined by the Vacant Building Enforcement Division in a number of areas. He's received a fine for failure to register vacant property, which is a requirement under Code Section 6, 42-3131, Section 6 of the code. He's not in compliance with that. He's been served notice on that. He's going to have a fine for that. He's also going to be getting a hit for a fine for his failure to comply with the vacant property maintenance standards. He's also going to, there's 2 liens on the property right now. There's probably going to be a third one put on it. So he's not going to be able to make any kind of positive transfer of the property until he fulfills his financial obligations to the city. We can also move forward with some criminal activity, but that's going to be kind of a hard sell for us because the dollar amounts are really not in line with some of the higher dollar amounts that our division has to deal with. So from a code enforcement standpoint, the vacant property standpoint is one of the items we're going to be doing. Because the property, there has not been any construction on the property, he has received a construction exemption, which is available to the vacant property owner. Is issued a permit that is the scope of which is going to make the property fit for occupancy. That was a permit that was issued in February, I believe. He received that exemption. That's something I approved, but because there's been no movement on the property, that exemption is going to be revoked retroactively so that the individual can pay property taxes on the property at a class 3 rate. As he should, because he has not been in compliance with the construction exemption that he was provided in conjunction with the code. Property, I've also notified the Office of Tax and Revenue that the property is occupancy determination of class 3 vacant. The second half of 2019, it's going to be taxed at the full class 3 rate going into 2020. So from the standpoint of code enforcement, vacant property enforcement has done everything they can at this stage to bring the property into compliance and also make it in compliance with the vacant property maintenance code. Now, unfortunately, there's nothing in the code that can compel me to make that property owner move forward on his actions. The only thing I can do is ensure the property, again, stays registered, and he has an obligation to keep that property registered with the city at the beginning of each fiscal year, which of course is going to turn in 2 weeks. I can also ensure the property stays in compliance with the vacant property maintenance code. We'll keep the property monitored, and also, just as you notified our office and we'll contact the Secretary, we'll get out there immediately and make sure the property is taken care of. So again, from a code enforcement standpoint, we've done pretty much everything I can do at this stage, and there are some things that are retroactively available to me. I just need this property owner to come into my office talk to me and let me know, can DCRA help you move this forward? And if you are not going to move this project forward, understand that there are regulatory standards you have to maintain, put yourself in jeopardy in terms of criminality, and you also do not keep the proper taxes paid on it because you're not going to qualify any of the exemptions that are allowed in the code. You could put yourself in jeopardy taxing.
I mean, that's really impressive. I'm very pleased that DCRA has been this responsive. It's really been remarkable. I was impressed with the way the inspectors got out there just a day after I had reported it. And that's been just really outstanding. Now, obviously what we would like from a community standpoint is to get that house into a condition that is habitable again. It was an elderly woman who lived there for a long time.
Yes, sir.
She finally died. The heirs then sold the house. And so there's now no one but this developer who has an interest in the house, a financial interest in the house. And it seems like what you've been doing is giving him a lot of incentives, financial incentives, to get that house completed. But what happens if it just goes under, financially it goes under, and then the house is left in this derelict condition?
Okay, there are a couple of courses of action that we can take. First thing is this particular fiscal year, I've started working with DCHD. DCHD has a program where they're looking at properties in neighborhoods so that they can possibly catch them before they come to a deteriorated state. The city is purchasing those properties and then making them available to city residents to purchase, simply DC government employees, to try to get them into neighborhoods, okay? There are penalties, I don't want to say penalties, but there is a higher tax rate for property class 3 vacant. Now, as I talk to property owners, as I come out and speak to groups like this in the evening, what I tell them is first, the city doesn't own any properties. The overhead is just too much for us to bear. It's your tax dollars to take care of. So although it can have a higher rate, what I'm trying to do and what we've been trying to do, and Director Shopper has been really pushing me to do this, is work with DCHD to get some of these properties before they become in a deteriorated state, try to get DCHD to probably get a hold of them and then get them lined up possibly for a family to purchase. Because ideally, although the city is going to benefit from that higher tax rate, either from a class 4 3 at $5 for every $100 assessed value, or $10 for a class 4 rate, it's much more beneficial for the neighborhood to have a family at home because they're using the local grocery store, they're going to the local school, they're neighbors in the neighborhood, and it's continuing the vibrancy of the neighborhood. Now, unfortunately, as long as the property owner is paying those taxes, a property can stay vacant for an extended period of time. The only thing that possibly could get us to a point to get that individual out of it is if the liens and the fines and the assessments that we keep getting push that individual in a position where they want to sell it because the overhead costs are just too much for them to bear, all right? Ideally, the last thing we don't want to do is go to tax it, all right? Because generally what it ends up is just another developer ends up with it, and then you end up with the same cycle that we have right now with it. Now, again, the code does not provide provisions for me to push them any harder than I can right now. The liens and the special assessments are really, $2,000 is a lot of money for me, okay? For a developer, it's basically a drop in the bucket, and also for a property that sets it so high. So all I can do is keep pushing him, keep leveraging him through the mechanisms I have in the code to force him to do one or two things: either move forward with the development of the property, or make it so uncomfortable for him that he'll want to sell the property.
Well, we really appreciate that. Obviously, what neighbors want is a family move in there.
Yes, sir.
There. And it's a very desirable property. There's been some development even right across the street. An older house was torn down and 2 houses were built in this place. Those were very, very desirable properties, and there were a lot of people competing to buy them. So I know that this is going to be a desirable place.
Yes, sir.
If the developer would just do his job and get it done. I appreciate all the incentives you're giving him to do that.
Yes, sir.
And we'll continue to work with you and work with the developer to to see if we can't get this fixed. I know that's in the best interest for everyone.
Yes, sir. And please, you have my contact information. Reach out to me at any time. I'll meet you on the site. I'll follow up on it. If the developer is not responding to me, it's probably rationale why it's not doing it. But if you can invite him to get in contact with me, I would like to try to help him develop a strategy to move forward with it, either to tap the proper permit, which he's not having any proper permits. I'm not going to call him a liar, but I believe that the validity of that statement from being able to get permits, there's not as much fact in it, there's more fiction than fact in that. Because again, he issued 2 permits, he has a valid building permit, which allows him to develop the property based on what he wants to do. What's probably happened is he's gotten upside down financially and he's not able to move forward.
I guessed exactly that same thing. Given the fact that they were taking the fence down because they hadn't paid the rent on the fence.
Yes, sir.
He was obviously not financially capable of pursuing the construction. That's what I was concerned about.
And I can assure you that our abatement team will not allow the property to become an eyesore to the neighborhood for the simple fact that, again, if it falls out of compliance with the vacant property maintenance standards, if we cannot compel the property owner to fulfill those obligations, that's what our team is there for, so that those properties do not become a nuisance to the neighborhood and they do not become a health and safety issue or an incubator crime.
Any other commissioners have?
Is this owner paying presently the vacant property tax rate?
I'm sorry.
Is the owner paying the vacant property tax rate, which is the high rate?
He is now, so he is paying the Class B rate, and there's going to be, again, there's going to be retroactive action made by our office, where he's going to be compelled to pay for the first half of the year to receive the exemption.
I just want to say, you know, I've had a number of vacant, I still have a number of vacant properties in my district. 5101, 5103 Connecticut, 5301, 5303 Connecticut.
Yes, sir.
53.
I've been up on those properties. I was up on those properties, the one on the corner of Connecticut Avenue, 200 block. I was dealing with that, which was the end part of the summer. I dealt with that when I was over legal construction, and I came back out this summer, got in contact with the new property owners to get them to come out there and clean up the urine or the porta potty, the trash. I worked with them to get that straight. They seem to have done the demolition on the house that was Class 4 blight. Because I also contacted our sister agency, DOEE, to deal with the issue that we had with construction dust.
No, they haven't, that still hasn't been resolved. The only thing I want to say is 5301, 5303 were in hideous condition for maybe 3.5 years. And it's taken a long time to get DCRA interested. I will say the new director seems to be more responsive than the previous administration, and I'm able to contact them and things seem to happen. So hopefully this building on Military Road will fare better than the one on Connecticut Avenue, otherwise you're going to have
so if there's still concerns with 530103, I'll go back up there tomorrow and see, or have the project managers associated with that.
It still hasn't been cleaned up. I mean, he was assigned.
Related to, I had vacant living enforcement for about 14 months now. There were some challenges associated with it, and first of all, I'm extremely happy to have this position. I like this job because I'm a 3rd generation public servant to the city. My grandfather served the city, my father served the city. After I retired from the military, I came back home, dragged my wife back to DC with me, okay? And I consider it fortunate to be serving the city that I was born in. I knew vacant property had some challenges in the past. We made a number of initiatives, both with the previous director and now Director Shopper. Director Shopper's given me a lot of resources to move forward and get things that need to be done. I do believe that you're going to see faster response, more timely response to vacant. I believe you're going to see faster and more timely response to all the building department. We're moving in the right direction now.
Thank you. I think Director Shopper's been very responsive. If I could get your card, I'd appreciate it, because I'd like to move ahead on this 5301, 5303 property, which is still an eyesore and still has dust spreading around the neighborhood.
One thing I will say, I'll talk to our sister agency, DOEE. We don't regulate per se the dust issue, just with the DOEE issue. We do have some issues with some things we do on the construction side, but we'll follow up. I'm sorry. I can just follow back up.
With regard to 5301 and 5303, DOEE has surveyed the property. They issued a cease and desist, which is now lifted because the developer has come into compliance. So that's where we are with that property. Is there something additional that has happened since then?
I'm not aware that the developer has cleaned up their property.
Well, what it was the developer was assigned to submit, I believe, a mitigation plan. And once the mitigation plan was submitted, then it would be, DOEE will receive it first, and DCRA will receive it. They also have to send another plan to DCRA, in which DOEE will sign off. So that's where we are with the property. There was a response sent to, I believe, Councilmember Shea, and Director Wells and Director Shackle commented to the council member. So I would say definitely reach out to Dee, who was here earlier, for that information, but that has been resolved. So I'm trying to understand where exactly.
He's not in compliance if he hasn't cleaned up the property. He's got a plan, but he hasn't executed the plan.
So you want him to execute the plan?
I mean, you want him to clean it up. I mean, I'm sick of that dump. I mean, it's a total eyesore. Excuse my language, but I mean, you know, the whole, I get letters from neighbors every day.
Sir, again, it's a vacant property. Even though it's a construction site, it's a vacant property. I'll get my team back up there tomorrow, get a survey. And I'm speaking in general terms right now. The property is not in compliance with the code. They get 7 days to get it cleaned up. If they don't get it cleaned up, I'll get it cleaned up, and we'll bill them, we'll lien them, and we'll fine them.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And that's the answer you want, and that's what's going to happen.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Any other?
I'm sorry, ma'am, can you just identify yourself? Like, just so we have it for the video and for the minutes.
My name is Inez Saki-Tay. I am a community outreach specialist and account manager for DCRA. I service wards 1 through 4.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Inez, because you've been very helpful with me on several matters. I appreciate it. Okay, Jerry?
I have a related question. I don't know if Mr. Sullivan can answer this or somebody else, but my related question is for these and other properties. If a building permit has been granted, where can one find building plans associated with that building permit?
Sir, to be perfectly honest with you, I believe the permit information, I don't know if the detailed plans associated with the, how they're available, but I'll be happy to find that out.
Well, perhaps our community representative, Inez, maybe you can answer that? If a building permit has been granted, where can one find the building plans associated with that building permit?
Well, if you
Come up to the microphone.
If you're seeking building plans that are associated with a current permit, you can reach out to DCRA Records Division. There's a link online. There's a link online that allows you to do that. I don't have the link in front of me. It's on my phone. I don't know it by heart.
What would that link say again? Building what?
It wouldn't say building anything. It would say records.
Records?
So it's a link to our records division, and then you'll place your inquiry online, and someone from records will respond to you.
Okay,
It works
so
sort of
it's
like
not
a-
online building plans. You have to request it.
Yes, from the records division.
So, Jerry, I can attest that you can get plans from DCRA. And as I think you gave me the records contact, and I contacted them, and I got a PDF from them, and it had everything that was interesting.
Again, Inez and Mr. Sullivan, thank you very, very much. And as Chris said, the improvement at DCRA has been dramatic, and we're very pleased with that. And this is the way we expect the agency to respond, and you're doing a terrific job. Thank you very much.
I just want to echo that real quick, because we're, like I mentioned earlier, we're giving testimony at Robert White's Facilities and Procurement Oversight Roundtable, and frankly, one of our concerns is about communication sometimes with agencies, but I think this is an example of, we have some questions about certain properties, and we're getting really detailed answers. And we really appreciate that. And I think we're able then to reassure residents and make sure people know what's going on, so we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sir, now, only my beloved Washington Redskins will do so well.
I'm not checking on what the score is now.
Just started.
Okay, that concludes the substantive portion of the business of the agenda, and we have some commission business to take care of. First is the minutes of our September 9th meeting. Those were published on our website and on various listservs. Are there any modifications or changes to the minutes? Move it to be accepted. Second. All those in favor? 5-0. Do we have any checks that need to be approved?
Yeah, they're on the minutes.
It's on the agenda.
This one? Okay, we have one check for $100.65 for Randy's pack, and that's for the whiteboard that we're going to use tonight. All those in favor of approving that check? 5-0. Okay.
What's happened to my check that I submitted the paperwork for 3 months ago?
The $19 check?
Yes.
That's actually in your mailbox in the office. Actually, I don't know if anybody ever looks at their mailbox.
It's up there.
It's in
Sorry.
the office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was approved?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Thank you.
Sorry, I should have.
Okay, and finally, there are not many items for the October 28th meeting yet, but I'm sure
Two items for sure.
one is the budget.
And the other is the quarterly report.
Report. Okay. Yes, our budget. 2020. Okay, anything else for our October 28th meeting? Like I said, I'm sure many things will come up between now and then. Okay.
Well, the subject that we missed tonight, is that going to be on the next one?
Yes, that, assuming that that's still a live issue.
Okay.
Also, I'm not sure Dan's going to be at that meeting. In any case, we're working on it. Okay, thank you very much. We're adjourned.